When I say sheep-focused life, what comes to mind for you? Did you ever think that sheep could help you replace some of your common cooking ingredients? Even cooking oil? Hello shepherds, welcome back, and if you're new here, hello, where we talk all things sheepy. I'm running low on one of my favorite cooking ingredients, clarified butter, sometimes called ghee. Before making my own butter, I used to simply buy butter sticks on sale and make my own clarified butter or ghee in bulk this way. So this method works pretty much with any butter you have on hand, as well as cream. I'm using my sheep's butter, but also I'm going to show you how to do it with cream as well. Clarified butter is great for frying due to its high smoke point, and it's a tasty addition to pastries, breads, as well as popcorn. I like to think of it like a butter essence. First off, what's clarified butter? This liquid gold is made through a process of removing our milk solids and water from our butter fats. Simply put, it's similar to rendering lard or tallow, where through a process of a bit of gentle heat and time, we separate our fats from our water and other bits to end up with this shelf-stable nectar of butter. But what about ghee or brown butter? How does that fall in line? Some folks like to use the term ghee and clarified butter interchangeably, and others state that there is a difference where ghee is clarified further, where some of our milk solids are browned a touch, and the browning makes our ghee more aromatic, richer, or deeper in flavor than clarified butter. Brown butter, in the same vein, is also a type of clarified butter, but toasted a bit further to where liquid gold is more of a toasty brownish color with a change in flavor to complement it. Some describe it as rich, nutty, or even slightly caramelized in flavor. What are the benefits of using or making a refined butter, you say? Firstly, I love how it makes our butter truly shelf stable. Fridge space is super valuable space in our household, and the more shelf stable foodstuffs that we have, the better it is. Whether there's a power outage or I just plain need the space for my milk and cheeses, so the less space waste, the better. Also, clarified butter has a higher smoke point than regular stick butter or traditional butter. This is great for deep frying or light frying, sauteing, and basically I like to use it as a flavorful, locally sourced oil substitute. On that note, did I mention how it yields such a beautiful buttery flavor? It's great to add to popcorn for that going to the movies feel without that sogginess that you may get from drizzling like fridge butter onto our popcorn. And it helps create a wonderful base for sauces in French country-style cooking such as a hollandaise or a brown roux. Also, as I mentioned earlier, how the process is similar to rendering tallow or lard, I also like to use it as substitutes for fats in our breads, tortillas, pastries, and more, for recipes that also call for a flavorful oil or fat. We do have family members with lactose intolerance, so when we refine our butter, we are also removing much of the lactose. It's not really a problem with our sheep milk, but it's still a real neat fact. So let's start cooking. This is a simple recipe. Depending on the butter fat levels of your butter source, as well as the water levels of your butter, you'll get different yields. It helps to use unsalted butter just because, like when I'm cooking or baking, I like to adjust my salt level to taste or to the recipe. You can use salted butter if you want, or add salt later on. It's really more of a personal preference thing. On average, how much does it reduce down to though? It really depends on the quality of your butter. The ones with higher butterfat levels reduce down less, whereas butter that has a lot of water in it may reduce down even more, as well as with using cream. It reduces down quite a bit. So when clarifying, let's say upwards about 25%, it reduces down, or concentrates if you want to frame it that way. If you're starting with a cream, it'll reduce down even more, but more on that later. So let's go ahead and make some. Let's put our butter into a heavy bottom saucepan, starting on low heat. We're aiming to go slow and gentle to melt our butter. We don't want it to burn, so going slow really helps the process. I like to swirl the butter around to melt it faster, but it's really not a necessary step as it melts. It helps to avoid stirring it so that all our milk solids and water separate out into layers. The top layer will often be a thin layer of foam, and eventually the water will percolate out, resting on the bottom layer, hanging out with most of the milk solids, with some of the milk solids even sticking to the bottom of the pan. That's a normal part of the clarifying process, and if you want, you can lightly skim the foam off the surface of butter. Just carefully, under the foam is our butterfat layer, and you don't want to skim that out as well. I'm just going to strain it out later. Once you can see all the way to the bottom pan, we can turn off our heat and set it aside to cool off a bit. And strain. If you strain your clarified butter out and notice that there's some water mixing back into the fat, simply add that butter back to the pan and slowly heat up a bit, cooking it a little bit longer and burning off all that extra water. And then let's go ahead and continue on with our straining process. I'm using a mesh strainer. Cheesecloth also works really well. If you can't find cheesecloth at your local grocer, I found them also at fabric stores. So let's continue on. Straining removes all these milk solids that have been separated in the cooking and leaves you with this crystal clear clarified butter. I like to store my clarified butter in a mason jar. I've been known to reuse cleaned and sterilized containers, all glass, just because that's my preference. The main thing is pour it into the container that you're comfortable with. And there we have it, pure sheep butter nectar. A local concentration of sunshine, grass, and animal goodness. Did you ever think sheep could provide you with cooking oil alternatives? Have you ever clarified butter at home yourself, or is this something new for you? If you've made it this far, an extra special thank you. I appreciate you. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a sheepy take. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Ta-tas!